It's Monday. It's 3 p.m. Sophia Jones right there joins me for V for Valkyries. Folks, the Golden State Valkyries, this is the final week of the WNBA season. Sophia, you're with the team all the time. You're the color analyst for the team. How is the vibe before we get going? Because this is going to be a Valkyries exclusive show. We'll be back with a lot of Warriors content in the near future, but we're giving love to the purple, to the black, to the Ravens. How are things going from your perspective? Good to see you, by the way.
Good to see you as well. Things are going really well with the team. They're coming off of a loss against the Minnesota Lynx, but it came down to the last couple of possessions. So when you can compete and battle with the number one team in the league, that's definitely a positive indication.
Hell yeah.
For the Valkyries, they unfortunately had to waive Elizabeth Kitley earlier today, but it was because they are activating Cecilia Zanlazindi, and she'll be questionable heading into tomorrow's matchup against Seattle. So that's always a huge boost as well.
Oh yeah, and we're going to be talking about all that and so much more. It's the WNBA edition of Golden Days. We're talking Valkyries. We're talking hoops, summer edition, Valhalla style. Welcome to the show. Let's have some fun. This is the Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. Leave me alone this summer.
Let's go. In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up.
We got some new hope coming. Three brand new stars. Now you hope you had a nice weekend. Welcome to the Golden Days, the V for Valkyries edition of Golden Days. Sophia Jones can be followed on Twitter at Sophia_Jones_2. You can follow me, Cyrus Sotzes, on Threads and Instagram at Dog Wild. I think that's easy enough. A little trickier on Twitter. My handle is at Surf Journalist. The program, maybe most importantly, on both platforms at Golden Days Pod. We're going to give some love to our sponsors in just a second, but I first want to check back in with Sophia Jones, and more specifically in regards to the Golden State Valkyries, because the season's almost over. We're at the apex as we wrap it up. 2 games remaining. The Valkyries play tomorrow. I believe they're done with home games, correct?
Yes, done with home until playoffs.
Beautiful. And those playoffs are just around the corner. By the way, I know it's Monday, an awful day of the week, the worst day of the week, in my humble opinion. I hope we're cheering you up just a little bit. And I hope the Valkyries are spicing things up for you just a smidge, because they have wildly exceeded expectations. Sophia, where do the Valkyries stand right now with 2 games remaining? We're gonna talk a lot of FanDuel here in just a second, because a few weeks back, we were talking about those plus 2,500 odds for the Valkyries to reach 25 wins. And if they win their final 2, they achieve that. I'm still waiting on someone out there who actually put money down for those incredible odds. But Sophia, they play the Seattle Storm tomorrow. The Storm, side note, to the best of my knowledge, correct me on any of this, you're the expert, not I. They're fighting for a playoff berth with the LA Sparks. They have not clinched that yet. The Storm, I feel like, have underachieved slightly this season. I think talent-wise, they should be higher than they are. That's just my opinion, clearly. But that's who the Valkyries play tomorrow. The Storm have some talent on that team. They're playing for something. Are the Valkyries playing for something? And then the Valkyries finish the season, I believe, Thursday at Minnesota. That's going to be tough. But again, is it tough? Because Minnesota already has the top seed locked in. Sophia, preview these next 2 games. Are the Valkyries, is it more of a focus in terms of just having a mental fortitude going to the postseason? Are we resting players? What's the approach? How are the Valkyries doing? And what do you expect for these final 2 games?
For these next 2 games, the Valkyries will mostly be playing for seeding and positioning if they find that there's a favorable matchup, as opposed to others. Right now, they're sitting in the 6th spot. And with one more win, the Valkyries will clinch that 6th seed, which would put them at playing the Atlanta Dream right now, which they're run 1-2 against them for the season. So that could potentially be favorable. But the Seattle Storm, they're sitting in that 8th spot right now. They only have 1 game remaining. So if they get a win, it will clinch their playoff seed. So they're going to be coming out very, very hungry. Seattle is a team that has a great home environment as well. So it'll be a battle for the Valkyries. But I think going into Coach Nakasa, she says she always wants to win. That's always her goal, is to win. But I do think that going into playoffs, you want to get there in as best shape as possible. If that's winning these 2 games and playing some of these players a lot of minutes so that you can get the seeding that you want, then I think that's a smart move. But if it's also getting a lot of heavy or using a lot of players and going deep into the bench and having players be a little bit more fresh with fresh legs, I think that would be a very solid idea as well. It's just going to depend on that. And I think mentioning Cecilia Zanalazini was now questionable, headed into the game tomorrow. It will be important for her to find her rhythm, but you don't want to force her to find her rhythm at the risk of furthering her injury. She has a calf injury, so that is something that you just definitely don't want to play around. And for the Minnesota Lynx, they're already resting Nafisa Collier tomorrow. Dejanay Carrington is going to be out with a shoulder injury. So those are 2 pretty big players, and they've already really started to rest some players. Alana Smith didn't play against the Valkyries when they were here the other day at Chase Center. So that could potentially be a win. They were competitive with them, like I mentioned, at Chase. It is a different environment at the Target Center where the Minnesota Lynx play. It is one of the best home environments probably in the WNBA. So it's not going to be a walk in the park, but if the Minnesota Lynx do decide to rest more players, it could potentially be that.
And it's a fine line that coaches have to toe when your team is in this position where you pretty much have your postseason positioning locked up. It's not official. The Valkyries are the 6th seed currently, and like you said, if they win tomorrow, they lock that. It becomes official. They will be the 6th seed, and then it comes down to who they play in that opening round. Want to add, by the way, AC bringing up, are they aspiring like Kawhi Leonard?
Oh my God, that is funny.
Sorry, any excuse to use one of those drops, I will do it. Yeah, and we'll save. When Mark Haynes joins me tomorrow night for the next episode of I-80 Crossover, we'll probably touch on that a little more. But I might as well ask you real quick, Sophia, while AC in the chat brought up Kawhi, any thoughts that you have about a burgeoning scandal here? I mean, the Clippers might face some punishment because the NBA is formally investigating them now. Any thoughts real fast on that before we go back to the Valks?
To be transparent, I'm not 100% informed on the situation going on. I have been pretty myopic on the WNBA, especially going into playoffs. So I really can't give a valid opinion, but I have heard that there is something happening with Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, basically, they're being accused. The Clippers are being accused of figuring out a way to circumvent the salary cap by sliding Kawhi an extra $28 million through an endorsement with a tree planting company called, I believe, Aspiration. And where it gets really sketchy is that Steve Ballmer was the owner of that company, although the person running the company could be going to jail for fraud, which helps Steve Ballmer's case in terms of him claiming innocence regarding any knowledge of that endorsement. But again, I think the crux of this comes down to $28 million as an endorsement. That's a shitload of money for a company that plants trees, and they're completely out of business now. It's just shady. It's very shady. The kids like to use the word sus regarding circumstances like this. Safe to say, Aspiration, Kawhi getting $28 million, Steve Ballmer pretending he knew nothing about any shady actions going on. I would agree that is a sus situation. I digress, though. We're talking Valkyries here. And visually, we have the standings in front of us right now. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll articulate the standings as best we can for the podcast audience. And the immediate question I have as we look at these standings, the Valkyries are 6th right now. They're 23-19. I'm guessing, I don't know if you have the answer to this. Is the 5 seed completely out? Because technically, I think they still could get it, but I don't know what the tiebreaker is with the Liberty. Any information to add there?
The Valkyries do not have the tiebreaker against the Liberty. The Liberty won that season series 3-1.
There you go. That answers that. So the highest the Valkyries can finish is 6, and again, they have, whoops, sorry. Okay. And they have 2 games remaining in the season against the Seattle Storm, who are currently 8th in the rankings, 22 and 21. And they're fighting off the LA Sparks, who they have a 1.5 game lead over for that 8th and final playoff spot. And then you have the Indiana Fever in the 7th seed. Indiana, how is Indiana doing, by the way? Because Caitlin Clark officially out for the year, which is shitty news. I mean, I don't know how you can spin that in a positive manner other than hopefully she's healthy next season. But the Fever lose their top scorer. I think Sophie Cunningham's out for the year with a knee injury. Are the Fever are they hobbling into a postseason where they're likely going to get their butts whipped in the opening round? What are your thoughts on the Fever?
If they get a favorable matchup, I would not put it past the Fever. They already won the Commissioner Cup title, which is the WNBA's in-season tournament. They did that without Caitlin Clark. They did still have Sid Colson and Sophie Cunningham, who those 2 are out. Sid Colson with a torn ACL. Ari McDonald is another one that suffered a season-ending injury. So Indiana could still potentially make noise. Kelsey Mitchell is playing outstanding. She is having a career year in points per game, and Aaliyah Boston has been really good for that squad as well. So they could potentially make some noise. Whenever Indiana decides that whenever they play to their fullest potential, they're a very dangerous team.
Wow, and this is without Caitlin Clark. Oh, that's fascinating. Which begs the next question, and I'm going to ask it, and then we'll come back after we give some love to our sponsors. And the question I have for you, Sophia, and this is a question I've already asked you multiple times, but the season changes each week. The records change, teams change. I mean, just look no further than the Vegas Aces as evidence of that. A team that was borderline written off a month ago, and now they're charging into the postseason, maybe as favorites. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But the big burning question I have for you, Sophia, is who the ideal first round opponent is. My suspicion on that has been the Atlanta Dream, because you look at the top 4, and somewhere in that top 4 is where the Valkyries are going to end up as their first round matchup. And it could be Minnesota. I don't want that. It could be the Las Vegas Aces, who have won 14 in a row. Sure as hell don't want that. The Phoenix Mercury are the 4 seed. They swept the season series of the Valkyries. I feel like of all the opponents that Golden State has played this year, the Mercury look like the team that have their number the highest. If you can understand what I mean by that, the Mercury I just feel like they own the Valkyries this season, and I that's not something I want to see as a first round matchup. And it leaves the Atlanta Dream, who are currently the 3 seed, and that would be your first round matchup if the season ended today. And we're going to find out, Sophia, how you feel about whether or not the Dream is the ideal opponent in the first round. And Sophia, I also want to get your thoughts about the fact that the Valkyries, their first postseason game ever, and I know this is a sensitive topic, we won't get too much into it, but it's a bummer that it's not going to be a Chase Center. I don't know how you can spin that either as positive news. They're going to play their opening round home game in the postseason in San Jose. And if you have any insights on that, we'll touch on it, because my biggest grievance with that isn't so much that the Laver Cup in tennis won priority over the Valkyries. That in and of itself is pretty wild, but maybe there's some legal issues there that the Valkyries just couldn't circumvent. But I'm more curious, and I don't know if you have answers to this or not, but I'm far more curious why they're not playing in Oakland and why San Jose, a.k.a. Silicon Valley, won out in terms of getting that home game. And maybe there's nothing nefarious there, but I still feel bad for the community of the East Bay, which is just losing everything when it comes to sports. And I thought there was going to be some sort of connection there with the Valkyries. I thought they have some facility there with practice and administration. And when you needed the most a home playoff game, they picked San Jose. And I'm curious to know if you have any insights or information on that, because that was a little bit of a bummer from my perspective. We're going to get more answers on all that, a lot to talk about after we give some love to our sponsors. And first up is the Golden Days merch store. And this is something we're going to be plugging for a little bit, because we're now selling swag, folks. And all you have to do, it's not difficult to find us. Just go to our YouTube page. Literally, if you just go to technically our handle on YouTube is at The Golden Days, because I think there's a musician out there from New Zealand or a band, they call themselves The Golden Days. They haven't been active in a long ass time. but I think they have just the standalone Golden Days name. If you add the word "the" in front of it, you go to our YouTube page. You also don't have to add "the" in the search engine. Just search Golden Days, days spelled like Days is Confused, and our channel will pop right up. And then if you go down there and you can see us being live, this is our show at the moment. We are live every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Follow us on social media for scheduling adjustments when necessary. And right here on the right-hand tab, you see store. And when you click on that button, we're selling swag, folks. We've got shirts. We brought back the city logo and the Rick Barry jersey tee. We've got mugs. We've got camelbacks. And they come in a lot of colors. So, for example, if you want the camelback, it doesn't just come in purple sky, reminiscent of your Valkyries. You can also get it in charcoal. You can get it in white. Sophia, I know we're just starting with this, and I've already opened the door for you to provide suggestions for more swag. We're going to be adding 3 to 5 new products and styles a day to this store. We're excited for it, especially with the holidays just around the corner. Sophia, anything look good to you in this lineup, and anything on the top of your head that you feel like we should be adding to the merch store?
I mean, I would have to go with the water bottle. I barely go anywhere without my water bottle. I have one right here.
Yeah.
So a water bottle is always going to be appealing to me. I feel like I can never have enough.
Well, the good news for you, I'm going to send you a sample of that camelback, and you can let me know if it lives up to the value. We stand by the quality of these items. You've got full refundable policies, all that good stuff. You're protected. It's a legitimate store. Go to the Golden Days YouTube page to find it, and give us some love if you can. Support the program. We need it, especially after an off season like this. We got battered and bruised, folks. I think every Warriors content creator can attribute something similarly when your team does literally nothing. Side note, there is some very exciting news with the Warriors and their roster. We'll save that for a future episode. That was revealed, at least to me, recently. That's a big fat tease for you folks there to stay tuned. Today's episode also brought to you by an awesome cover band that is Decades. Their website is decadesofficial.com. Let me give you the visual for them as well. And look, even though summer is slowly starting to wrap up, that does not mean the weather is going to go bad immediately here in the state of California. Fall is our best season, at least on the northern side, even the south. I think when I used to live down near San Diego in San Diego County, I was a former resident of Encinitas, and fall represented the best waves, and you get those offshore winds. But here in Northern California, everything calms down in the fall. The weather is borderline perfect. And if you're looking for music for that important event that you're setting up, whether it could be, I don't know, an anniversary, it could be a wedding, it could be a birthday. If it's a good old-fashioned backyard rager, make sure you invite your Uncle Si to that. I will come. Maybe it's a corporate event like the Catalina Wine Mixer, and you need some prestige worldwide to save the day. That's what Decades can do for you. They just played a set with Everlast a couple weeks ago, an infamous band. If you're old enough to remember them, you can understand the prestige that goes with something like that. And look, cover bands are normally invited to play with legendary, like a multi-platinum selling artists like Everlast. That's how good they are. Uncle Eddie D himself, Eddie DeBartolo, former owner of the Niners, hired Decades to their private set, his private set at his Montana compound. They're NorCal natives. They're Golden Dazers. They're playing every red zone rally. These are the pregame festivities next door to Levi Stadium over at Great America. And Decades, side note, go Niners. That was a great win yesterday. They started the season 1-0. Decades is playing every red zone rally, and they could be playing your event. Go to decadesofficial.com. Again, decadesofficial.com. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at decadesofficial, or email kyle@atomicmusicgroup.com. Again, kyle@atomicmusicgroup.com. Mention the program. They'll give you a discount. And most importantly, thank us later, because I know you will. They will not let you down. They are phenomenal. And last but not least, and thankfully this sponsor ties in directly to the show, so it doesn't sound like an ad, and that's the beauty of having FanDuel be a part of this operation. It's FanDuel. The logo's right there below me. The world's biggest sports book. I don't think it's even close. And they have a lot of odds when it comes to the Golden State Valkyries. I'm still waiting on Coach of the Year, because I want to win some money betting on Natalie Nakase to win Coach of the Year. And Sophia, we were talking in our pre-show meeting about an article you read pertaining to Nakase and Coach of the Year. If you don't mind elaborating, because I think that article referenced her odds for winning Coach of the Year. Do you mind expanding on that?
There was an article written on ESPN that I read earlier today, and it was ranking first season head coaches in the WNBA. And Coach Nakase was ranked number one. And in the specific description of that ranking, they mentioned that she's the favorite to win Coach of the Year.
She has to be. I don't know how. If she doesn't win it, it's safe to say she's robbed. I think what she's accomplished as the head coach with a team like the Valkyries, and again, an expansion team, a team that doesn't necessarily have star power. I don't mean any disrespect to any of the players. Their one all-star, though, is out for the year with an injury. And this is just, from my perspective, this is just my opinion, a ragtag group of players who are just busting their asses, adhering to a system with a team-first ideology. And look, if the head coach, if her teachings are not being believed in, if their players are not subscribing to it, you're not getting these kinds of results. Natalie Nakase deserves her flowers and then some. You cannot bet on that yet on FanDuel, but what you can bet on when it comes to awards, and I've been waiting to ask you this for a while, because to me, it is fascinating not only what the Las Vegas Aces are doing, but far more specifically, what A'ja Wilson is doing. Folks, FanDuel has been a sponsor since the beginning of August. We've been talking about this MVP race in the WNBA for well over a month now. And the odds a month ago were not even debatable. Nafisa Collier was the overwhelming favorite to win MVP. Fast forward a month and change, the Vegas won 14 straight games. A'ja Wilson's on fire during this winning streak. And now, if you go to FanDuel, it's a tight race. A lot of people are saying A'ja Wilson's the favorite. FanDuel still lists Nafisa Collier as the favorite. Nafisa has plus 255 odds to win the 2025 WNBA MVP award. A'ja Wilson minus 350. But again, it wasn't that long ago where A'ja Wilson was like minus 10,000. I'm sorry. Wait a second. Was plus 10,000. I'm sorry. So A'ja's the favorite. Wait, I read that wrong. I apologize. A'ja Wilson is the clear-cut favorite at minus 350. Nafisa Collier is now in second place odds-wise at plus 255. I apologize for that. I misread that incorrectly. A'ja's the favorite. This is insane to me. Your thoughts on that?
A'ja is the reigning WNBA Western Conference Player of the Month, and in the month that she averaged over 20 points and about 10 rebounds, so she averaged a 20-point double-double for the whole month of August. Her team is probably the hottest team in the WNBA right now on that 14-game win streak. And Nafisa Collier, she was out a couple of games as well with an ankle injury. And it was really during that time that we saw the resurgence of the Las Vegas Aces with A'ja Wilson at the helm. She had the first 30-point, 20-rebound double-double in WNBA history. She added a number of 30-point, 10-rebound double-doubles as well to help her case. But she's just been indomitable recently. And in terms of voter philosophy, I think there are certain voters that vote for the best player on the best team, which would be Nafisa Collier. That one's not even a question. And then there's the other philosophy that looks at the best player in the WNBA. And I think that would be A'ja Wilson. Both those two went head to head when the Minnesota Lynx and Las Vegas Aces played each other last Thursday. Not only did the Las Vegas Aces win, but A'ja dominated her matchup against Nafisa Collier.
And again, that would beg the question: was the Minnesota team going full speed, right? Like, were they playing with the hunger that they had a few weeks ago? Because even in that matchup, they had clinched the top seed by that point, correct?
Yes, the only person that was out that game, to my knowledge, was Dejanay Carrington,
which has significance, but
which is still significant.
And I think piggybacking off what you just said here, Bruce Morrow in the chat's adding that A'ja fatigue will make her lose it. And what that logic implies is, like you said, A'ja Wilson, it's virtually undebatable that she is the best player in the WNBA. But LeBron James, for a lot of years, it was undebatable that he was the best player in the NBA. And voter fatigue cost him some MVPs. I don't think LeBron's won an MVP award since I think 2013 or 14. It's been a long time. And when you look at it at face value, it doesn't make sense because you're right. The best players should be winning this award routinely. But you factor in team records, right? And Afisa Collier's Minnesota team is the best. They clinched the top seed a while ago, and she's the best player in the best team. And then I think this factors in as well, the fatigue of voting in a player year after year. I think Nikola Jokic is a player who's also starting to experience that similar voter fatigue. How much do you think that's going to factor into the voting here?
A'ja Wilson is a 3-time MVP, so it could play a factor. I don't think that it should. I think you should take in every person's given season and just evaluate them for that. But it honestly really could play a factor, and I think that's why out the gate to start the season, Nafisa Collier was so heavily favorited.
Absolutely, she was. And we'll see what happens with FanDuel. Again, I read those odds before. They flopped positions. Nafisa Collier is now the underdog at plus 255 to win MVP. A'ja Wilson minus 350. And again, this is where if you get in on these odds early, you can make bank because A'ja Wilson a month ago, I remember those odds looking like plus 1,000 for her to win MVP. And in the same vein, again, you could have bet on the Valkyries to plus 2,500 to reach the 25 win mark, attainable still, which is incredible. And one last odd I want to run by you here real fast, courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook, is tomorrow's odds. The Valkyries are in Seattle. And again, I do think the hunger factor is going to play a part in this in terms of being motivated to give it your all, because fighting for the 6th seed versus fighting for just life, right? Postseason life. Those are different levels of motivation, right? And I don't know if that's going to factor in. I personally think human nature is a very relevant variable in every one of these matchups. The Seattle Storm, 6.5-point favorites. The OU is 155. I saw someone in the chat way back at the beginning of the show. Let me see if we can find that chat right here. Gilbert Arbalo mentions, I like the Valks at plus 6.5. I'm going to go a step further. I like the Valks money line. Excuse me. The Golden State Valkyries money line plus 225 to just win outright. I always like those odds. Like if you think your underdog team is going to win, just bet the money line. You might as well get a nice payout from that. Your thoughts on the Valkyries and Storm tomorrow night for all the degenerate gamblers out there wanting to win some cash?
The Valkyries are playing some of their best basketball of the season right now. So it's so hard to go up against them, but Seattle is fighting for their playoff lives. If they lose tomorrow, then their fate is held in the Los Angeles Sparks' hands. The Sparks have 2 more games. So if Seattle loses tomorrow and the Sparks win the next 2 of their games, then Seattle will be eliminated from the playoffs because Los Angeles owns the tiebreaker. So they'll be fighting for their lives 100%. This is their very last game of the regular season tomorrow. I still think that the Valkyries have shown so much fight throughout the course of the season that whenever there is outside noise, then they really tend to quiet it down. But against the Seattle Storm, that's a matchup that the Valkyries have really liked this year. They blew them out twice at home. They did not win at Seattle. However, that was it was a really weird game. It has an asterisk next to it, in my opinion, because it was right before the WNBA All-Star break, and it was coming off of a stretch where the Valkyries played 6 games in 12 days, and a 5-game road trip was thrown into there.
I remember.
Yes.
So the Seattle game was the last of that 5-game road trip?
So they had a 5-game to start the month of July. They had a 5-game road trip. They played home against the Phoenix Mercury, and then they traveled to Seattle to play away. And that was the stretch that was really, really difficult, where I think it included, like I said, the 6 games in 12 days. But by that time, they were exhausted.
So you're liking the Valkyries' chances tomorrow. I didn't realize Seattle that tomorrow is their season finale. So what happens if Seattle loses and the Valkyries win? You mentioned this already, that a Valkyries win clinches the 6th seed. But from Seattle's perspective, if they lose that game, they finish the season 500, 22-22. That alone just kind of has a little bit of a stink to it. I'm not going to lie. I think the Storm are going to be motivated to stay above 500 to finish the season. The LA Sparks, meanwhile, have 2 games remaining. They're 20-22. So if the Storm lose, what's at stake for the Sparks? I mean, what's left on their schedule where if they win out, they steal that playoff spot?
Let me take a quick second to look up the Los Angeles Sparks remaining schedule.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot there. My apologies.
No, you're good. So the Sparks, they play at Phoenix tomorrow, and then at home versus Las Vegas on Thursday. So they don't really have a very favorable slate.
No, they don't.
And I guess it would be of note that Phoenix could potentially find themselves making a little bit of a jump in the standings. And Las Vegas and Atlanta are tied for that 2nd seed right now. The tiebreaker going to Las Vegas. So Las Vegas is going to want to come out that game very motivated as well. But if you're Seattle, you don't want to put your fate in someone else's hands when you can just go out there, control your destiny, and get a win.
Gago in the chat adding that loss in Seattle was a day game.
It was at noon.
Remember me bitching about all those early games? Was that another one of those early games? Like,
it was a noon start time, correct?
Stop that, please. Come on, next year, WNBA, I beg of you. The minimum start time, make it 1 p.m. Minimum. I would prefer 4. Like that was ridiculous. But that's just me. Again, plenty of early risers in this world are probably hearing me going, "You lazy piece of shit," and I don't blame you either. But look, there's a lot of us. I'm referring to this guy with 2 thumbs pointed his direction. There's a lot of us. Why not make everybody happy instead of just the early risers? I know you mentioned one of those early games, and I'm being facetious with a lot of this. Please forgive me. We're entertaining here as much as informing. And one of those games I remember was because of some like summer camp or a basketball camp. And I respect that, but just be aware of the bigger audience. Like, if you're going to win this thing out, WNBA, you got to win the ratings battle. You got to get attraction from beyond the arena. Otherwise, you're like baseball, you're like hockey, where those sports are surviving and they're going to be okay. But dude, strive for the top, man. And the start times, I think, do play a small part in that. And I could be totally wrong as well with all of that. So I asked you a question before we went into our sponsorship reads, which was of those 4 teams at the top. And again, we're talking about Minnesota, we're talking about Vegas, we're talking about Atlanta, and we're talking about Phoenix. I think Atlanta is your ideal opponent. Would you agree with that sentiment?
I would.
And why?
The Valkyries are 1-2 against Atlanta. That 1 win coming in Atlanta as well. And one of the losses was because Valkyries, actually both those losses, one of them, Cecilia Zanalzini and Janelle Salon were playing limited minutes because they were both coming back from Eurobasket. And then in the second loss against the Atlanta Dream, Valkyries were very down on numbers. That's when both Tiffany Hayes and Chechi were late scratches. So Valkyries suited up with 9 people, if I remember correctly. But so it's still I would definitely say that's a favorable matchup. Valkyries are the best team in the league in defending the paint. Their opponents average the least number of points in the paint in the league against the Valkyries. And with a team like the Atlanta Dream, where they really thrive on their inside presence with Bree Jones and Brittany Griner, that's something that Valkyries have done a solid job at containing this season.
I know this may sound crazy saying that the second best opponent you want to face in the opening round would feature the best player, arguably of all time in the WNBA. Maybe that's an inaccurate statement, but I'm referring to A'ja Wilson. Nonetheless, when you look at those 4 teams, I kind of feel like, and especially piggybacking off what you just said about the Valkyries' interior defense being so stout, is Vegas the runner-up here in terms of who you want to face in the opening round, or who would you like to play if it's not going to be Atlanta?
I think the Valkyries want to get matched up against the Phoenix Mercury, honestly.
Okay.
They're 0-4 against that team, but first loss was very early in the season. Valkyries were up late but they had just never had any experience managing a lead before. And Phoenix was able to come back. In the second loss, it was at home in Golden State. And Alyssa Thomas got what I felt like was a little bit of a ticky-tack foul that sent her to the free throw line where she had the game-winning
I
free
remember that.
throws.
Yeah, I remember that.
The third and fourth losses, because the Valkyries played them twice in a row, was also when they had about 8 or 9 players suit up. So they were extremely down on numbers as well. So I think that could be another favorable matchup, and I would take that before Las Vegas or Minnesota.
Well, that's interesting. And stay tuned. 2 games remaining in the season. The Storm play their season finale in this matchup tomorrow, and this leads to a little bit of controversy. Maybe it's not even controversial. I don't know, but it's unfortunate that the Valkyries' very first postseason game ever will not be at Chase Center. And again, the Laver Cup playing into this. This was a contractual agreement that I think was signed even before Joe Lacob purchased the Valkyries as an expansion team. So this was scheduled a long time ago. Nonetheless, it's disappointing. And what compounded the disappointment for me, this is just my perspective, strictly an opinion. I could be totally wrong on this, but it did disappoint that the Valkyries chose San Jose and not Oakland as the spot for their game 2, which is going to be at home. Do you share that disappointment, Sophia? Maybe there's a specific reason for that. What can you shine on that? And maybe you could tell me that I'm just totally wrong here. Your thoughts?
So from what I was reading from various news outlets, the locations that Valkyries were potentially looking at to relocate for game 2 would have been Oracle, or I think it's Oakland Arena now.
Yeah, they took out the sponsor. Yeah, it's just Oakland.
Oakland Arena, Golden One Center, and SAP Center. And it was ultimately decided to go to SAP Center because of availability.
Interesting.
Yes, but they did. From
Okay.
what I was reading, they did pursue those 3 options.
Because there's the idea of Oracle, and I know it's not called Oracle anymore. I mean, what's the point of sponsoring an arena that is only active part-time, mostly with concerts and whatever else they're using to fill that place? But so Oracle is no longer the sponsor. Like you said, it's just, I think, the Oakland Alameda County Arena. I can't remember what the official name is, but the idea of that place being revisited for postseason basketball. I mean, we all remember, at least I feel like most of us who are old enough remember, the crowds in that place, the noise, just the impact that audience had. And we here in the Bay Area are basketball junkies. I just was picturing just this army of purple and just mayhem, just loud. And like, it was going to be home court advantage without question. I mean, that's what Oracle, I'm going to call it that still, provided. What do you expect for SAP? This is the place that, now look, they can make noise too. It's a Shark Tank. The Sharks play there. The Warriors call that place home, I believe, for a year or 2 back in the mid-90s when they were renovating Oracle Arena. So what can you tell us about SAP and any expectations there? Maybe you don't know anything. I mean, I'm jumping ahead. I apologize if I am.
I mean, I expect everything that we've seen from the Chase Center crowd and more, because this will be a playoff game. The whole Bay Area is so tuned into women's basketball, and I think that regardless, people are committed to make something happen and make it happen in showing up. I even think about a school like Archbishop Mini down in San Jose that has a ton of basketball roots. WNBA product, Haley Jones went there. So there's still a lot of roots in South Bay, and I think that I think 100% everyone will travel, and it'll be a very adverse environment for the opposing team.
I'm looking. I'm very much. When do they have the specific? I imagine they do, because it conflicted with the Laver Cup. When is game 2 going to happen? And do you know the full postseason schedule?
So there are only the days laid out, but because seeding is still subject to change, you don't know if you'll play on a Tuesday or Wednesday, for example.
Yeah.
So there isn't any specific date yet for when the Valkyries will be playing at home, but it will be next week.
So it's
early next week. Yeah.
And that's when all the oh man, I'm so pumped for that. This is exciting because look, let's be real here. I don't think many people, hell, any people. Were you predicting a playoff berth, Sophia?
When I saw the team play for the first time and I saw them practicing, I did.
Okay, all right.
I flat out said it. I don't think that there are 5 teams in the W that are better than Golden State that will be able to steal a spot from them.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Well, bravo for having the insight there and the to accurately predict that. I have certainly not seen anybody before the season started. I didn't see any predictions that publicly stated from anyone bold enough to make that prediction that they were going to go to the postseason. It's impressive. I think it is damn impressive. Bravo to the Valkyries. They're again, the playoffs start next week. We don't know who they're going to play at. But outside of Chechi coming back and she's going to be ready for the postseason.
Hopefully. We're not sure yet.
Hopefully. Yeah. Okay. But it's if you're an optimist, that's what you're thinking in your mind. And this is just thrilling. I'm so excited for this. And they still have 2 games to go. Jumping ahead real quick, if you don't mind me touching on this subject for a second, because this story is kind of like a dark cloud that's hanging not right over the WNBA, but it's in the distance and the wind's pushing it slowly toward all of us. And that dark cloud is this pending labor dispute. None of us have any idea what's going to actually happen. But one thing I keep seeing over and over again in the news is that a primary focal point of the dispute between the Players Association and the team is the revenue share. And I saw some stat that someone posted, and you can correct me on this if it's wrong, but the stat laid out that the players are only getting 11% of WNBA revenue, whereas in the NBA, the players and the owners split it almost 50-50, and that figure is what sets the salary cap and so forth. Side note, I am going to bring up one NBA thing with you in just a second. I just reminded myself of a topic that it's going to be a whole campaign on this program this coming season. I digress. I'll revisit that in just a second. But with the WNBA, am I accurate in saying that the players are only getting 11%? Because if that's true, that is a massively unfair sticking point, and I side with the players 1,000,000%. They deserve far more than 11% of the revenue, let alone salaries that are rivaling team bus drivers and other low-skilled workers around. Like, they're making the same amount of money almost as like fast food workers. And this is not to disparage fast food workers, but these are WNBA players. If you want your league to succeed, you got to treat the talent like they're talent. And you have to add a certain level of prestige to this brand that you're building here. Anything you could add to that? Is that 11% figure accurate? You don't have to add opinions to this. Just what do you know and what do you think?
I don't know off the top of my head if that 11% figure is accurate, but it is correct that the WNBA players are trying to get a larger percentage of that total revenue, and they're trying to get it to where it continues to grow as the league expands. So it was at a fixed amount in the last CBA contract negotiations in 2019, which then of course COVID hit, but then after COVID we saw the league really flourish, but that number just stayed at the same percentage. So players weren't really able to benefit from that. And that's just a huge, like you said, focal point of what they're trying to work for in these upcoming negotiations. And another big word that has been thrown around is prioritization, which these players, some of them go to Europe, Australia, Unrivaled, Athletes Unlimited, but they're essentially trying to get that prioritization to where they can be comfortable with their WNBA season and schedule and not feel the need to have to go overseas. And if there is conflict, they need to be incentivized enough so that the WNBA is prioritized.
There you go. And stay tuned. And I agree with the players here. 100%. This is just crazy to me. And this also leads to my official stance that I'm going to be bringing onto this show. I don't know if you agree with this, Sophia, or not. You don't have to. But I'm officially going to be advocating for scrap the cap. What I mean by that is I think the salary cap in the NBA is antiquated. All it does is protect owners from themselves, meaning the cheap owners of the NBA is who is benefiting from a salary cap. That's it. Like, the only reason this rule exists is so billionaires are kept from spending more money than they want to. And so the poorer owners, and maybe you could call them cheaper, might be synonymous in this case, they want a rule in place so that they can spend just a certain amount and not be forced to spend more to compete with other teams. People love to be proponents of capitalism until that capitalism doesn't benefit the ruling class. Then all of a sudden we want regulation. And in this case, the salary cap is that regulation. I am proposing scrap it. And look, their income inequality has never been worse in human history. The rich have never had more. The poor have never had less. If you're an NBA owner and you can't afford to pay your players and compete in the modern NBA without a salary cap, sell your team. There's plenty of billionaires out there who can't afford it and who are willing to spend. Let the players make whatever they want. This rule is asinine. I kind of understood it 25, 30 years ago, back when greed was prevalent among players' salaries, right? When our eyes were opening to like a certain amounts people were getting, like Michael Jordan's getting 35 million. Oh my God. This was back in the late 90s. In the present day, look at how much the owners are making. They're multi-billionaires. They can easily afford it. I'm done siding with them, man. Give the players their money. Let capitalism reign free. Let the market decide what these players should get. And if you're a cheap owner, sell your team to someone who will spend. Scrap the cap. That's an ethos I'm going to officially start moving forward with, effective immediately. Sophia, your thoughts on that? Am I being too extreme, too harsh?
The way that I see it, all your reasoning does make sense. However, as someone that's a consumer and an audience member watching basketball, I would get worried that just, if a lot of top players just flock to certain teams and then there's no disparity in the actual basketball component. And we go back to this era of super teams where we're seeing the same 2, 3, whatever, compete in the finals every year. So as someone who is a consumer of basketball, I think I would still prefer to have the cap space there.
Here's my response to that. And you also make valid points. I look at the Chicago Bulls as a prime case study, if you will, of where the salary cap is so egregiously going wrong. Jerry Reinsdorf, their cheap owner, has never once touched the luxury tax. He refuses to go a penny over that. And he's not being grilled for that. He's not being held accountable for that because that's the cap. Because all he has to say is, there's a rule in place. It limits me from spending more than this amount. If I spend more than this amount, I get penalized for that. And that's not fair to me. So this is the amount I'm going to spend. And fans, sorry, but that's the rules. When you take that rule out, now the fans can hold the owner accountable for your team's failings. And I like that. And look, again, everyone's different, right? I get criticism sometimes, and I think it's valid to a certain extent that I bring maybe too much objectivity to coverage, meaning sometimes fans just want to enjoy the game and not understand everything about it. Ignorance is bliss, right? And that can apply to sports fandom. But at the same time, these owners are absolved from so much criticism, largely because of the parity that you're talking about, because these rules are in place to try to spread everything out evenly. But you also have owners who are abusing it. Case in point, this current offseason, the second apron. I just feel like it's gone too far. And I've never had much sympathy for those with exorbitant wealth to begin with. To me, if you're a billionaire, you don't need that. You don't need $1 billion. It's completely unnecessary. Give half of that away immediately. Give 2/3 of that away immediately. Give 4/5 of that away immediately. And you're going to be more than fine. 1,000-fold. Greed has never been rampant this heavy from my experience as now 47 years old. It's getting worse, not better. And the owners, it's just there's so much wealth out there that for these owners to put these rules over themselves, to give an excuse to not spend more, it's wild, man. And I'm looking at I get this. What happened to the free market? I get what you're saying, though, too, because the owners would ultimately penalize the consumers in this scenario that I'm presenting. My response to that is, well, at least the owner is going to be held accountable by the fans, right? The fans can now direct their ire specifically that one person for all of the malaise, all of your team's issues. It's no longer the GM. It's no longer the coach. Now you can look at one specific person and say, you're not spending enough. You're the problem. And that person, Jerry Reinsdorf, can now be put in a position where it's like, do I want a fan base that hates me this much? Maybe it's time to sell so that this team can be competitive. It's the hypocrisy of an open market, except when the ruling class, those at the top, are now suffering because of it. Now we got to put regulation. The hypocrisy of that is astounding to me. And I'm putting my foot down here. I get what you're saying too about the consumers. But I'm still going to stand with scrap the cap. That's just me. Any other pushback? Any additional thoughts before we start wrapping it up here?
I agree with what you say. It just thinking of if the NBA in that scenario is like a microcosm of our actual society, there aren't too many cases in which CEOs and owners of these multi-billion-dollar companies are really being held accountable. So I don't know how much that would translate to the NBA, which is why I would still just be in favor of keeping the cap.
I hear you. And there's some other points too, like Anthony in the chat saying that the salary cap's also in place to maintain disparity, meaning so that a couple teams can't just buy everyone again with money. But that's so what is my response to that? And the reason why I say so what is because I've spent my entire life watching sports with dynasties, sports organizations, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the NBA, where you have this system where you have a few teams who are just stacked, right? And they're the power players and everyone else is suffering. The game itself never suffered for that. Like all that does to a national audience is give you your heroes and your villains. And in this case, the villains are the bad teams. The heroes are the good teams. Why that's important is because you want to captivate the imagination of your audience, right? That's why sports is so popular, is because of all these stories within it, because of each of us being able to let go of reality for just a minute and fantasize about our sports team. And when it comes to sports itself, it was not struggling in the 80s when the Lakers and Celtics ruled everything. The NBA was not struggling in the 90s when the Chicago Bulls owned everything. I've never seen sports struggle because of dynasties is what I'm trying to say. So I can understand the other side, the flip side of that, which is worrying about the have-nots. But again, sell your team if you can't pony up. You're in the wrong business. If you cannot afford to spend money on your team, you should not own a team. Sell your team, cash out. You're going to be fine. Someone will give you $4 or $5 billion for your team to actually spend. That's just my take on it. And again, I could be totally wrong. And Anthony's siding with you. He's saying it's fine, but it's bad for consumers. You lose viewers. I don't agree with the losing viewers part, though, because again, you go back to the 80s, you go back to the 90s. You look at any sport that has dynasties in it, that has teams that have extended reigns of success, ratings did nothing but go up. When the Warriors dynasty was destroying everybody, the popularity of the game was higher then than it is now. So I don't agree with that premise that it's gonna hurt viewers. If anything, it's the opposite. You have super teams, people love super teams. But that's it. And yeah, Bruce Morrow's adding that Jerry Reinsdorf is not paying his players. I saw someone in the chat bring up really quickly here. I forgot to highlight it. I apologize. I think ATBY. Where did you go? Right here. That is writing that apparently the Warriors have lowered the asking price for Jonathan Kuminga. I just tried finding that. No source indicating as such. All I can tell you is Jonathan Kuminga is currently in Ohio training. I did reach out to his camp and they confirmed that. I don't know the why of it. I didn't follow up, but yeah, this standoff continues. We're recording this on September 8th. Training camp starts September 29th. So we're basically 20 days away. There is one player that is pretty much confirmed to be on the Warriors. We'll save that for tomorrow's Golden Days. Again, a big fat tease. But Sophia, any final thoughts? Anything you think we missed talking about the Valkyries, the WNBA, and anything else?
I think we just about covered it. Golden State, yeah. Last two games of the regular season at Seattle tomorrow, and then at Minnesota on Thursday.
And how can people follow the action, at least audio-wise? I know on TV, it's K-Pix is primarily the place you can catch the action, but you are the radio color analyst. And radio, a somewhat antiquated term because nowadays most people are getting that feed through digital methodologies. Nonetheless, how can people follow the action and listen to you provide analysis for your Golden State Valkyries?
On the Golden State app or the Golden State Valkyries channel on the Odyssey app.
Ooh, so the Valkyries have their own app, and if you
It's the Golden State app. So it's actually like Valkyries and Warriors. And I think you can get like tickets, merch, all that stuff through there as well.
and so the stream of the game comes directly through that app.
I believe so.
Awesome. So download the Golden State app, or download the Odyssey app. That's the best way to stream the games, because road games are not on terrestrial radio still, correct? Has that changed?
We've had a couple road games on 95.7 The Game. I don't know off the top of my head if these next two games will be on 95.7 though. So sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. And what about the postseason? Have they announced anything there? Like, will 95.7 The Game be carrying road and home playoff games? Any news there?
I think media is still being worked out for
Okay,
playoffs.
gotcha. Well, stay tuned. And again, we're here every Monday at 3 p.m. To give you updates on the Valkyries because we now have a WNBA team here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they're kicking ass, folks. They're about to get into the postseason. It's a fun time, and it's a joy to watch the Valkyries play. It's a terrific brand of basketball. It's pure. It's team oriented. Again, props to Natalie Nikase for doing a phenomenal job. In just year one, man, she has got a brain that looks like a basketball, and I respect that. And check out the store. We got a merch store. Sophia, the Camelback will be sent to you very soon. The water bottle. Just go to our YouTube page. That's where you can find it. I already see one email from someone that says that they can't find the store, and I've noticed issues on the mobile app. If you have not updated YouTube in a long time, I've noticed sometimes it doesn't show there. So just go to our YouTube channel on a web browser. That's the best way to see the store. It does show up in that regard, as we just showed you in the show a moment ago. Yeah, and with the holidays around the corner, we're just going to be upping that ante and then some. And we always appreciate your support. We need it, and we're grateful for it. Thank you. Anything in the chat? I think Muhammad Olavi is adding makes for the ultimate rookie underdog story. Imagine so there's something being discussed here. Hold on. Or maybe not. Just saying Kuminga taking down Jokic, Luka, Giannis led Lakers. Yeah, good stuff. All right. I think we're done. Are we good? Finished?
I think we're good. Yep.
Great calls tomorrow. Good luck tomorrow. Good luck Thursday. And one thing I forgot to add before we go, you don't just call the games as the color analyst. For approximately 30 minutes after the game concludes, you continue with the post-game show. You and either Kevin Dana or Deuce Mason. Is there anyone else? Is it just those two primarily?
Just those two.
And stay tuned for that as well, because after the game, do you guys take callers? Like, what's the format for your post-game show typically? I apologize that I have not caught that.
Yeah, it's just us discussing the game, looking if it's home and the Valkyries win, then we have an exclusive interview with a player. And if we win and it's away, unfortunately we don't get a player. But that's the first segment. And then we also look at a couple scores around the league, play some highlights. It's actually on, I believe, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you look up Valkyries Post Up Pod, that's just all the post game recaps.
And they call it the Post Up. I like that. It's a good name. So the Valkyries Post Up Pod. Check that out too. Absolutely. And follow Sophia Jones on Twitter at Sophia Jones_2. Otherwise, we'll be back tomorrow night at the absolute latest. There's a lot to talk about with the Warriors, but there's also so much to talk about the Valkyries that we made this exclusive Valkyries content. There will be more Golden Days episodes coming soon at the absolute latest tomorrow night, approximately 8:30 p.m. Every Tuesday night, we're doing this from now on. I love it. Mark Haynes joins me. That's Chris's brother, in case you folks are unfamiliar. And he covers the Kings. I cover the Warriors. And we bring that together for the I-80 Express, because the Interstate 80 is what connects those two cities, just in case you folks aren't from the area and don't understand the reference. But there's going to be a lot to talk about in regards to the Warriors, who are 20 days away from training camp. Did you get a chance to enjoy the U.S. Open, by the way? Because Stephen Curry was in attendance with Ayesha. It was like a scene. Jimmy Butler was there. So Jimmy Butler and Steph were representing the Warriors at the U.S. Open. Great tennis. Did you get a chance to enjoy it too?
I did. I was happy that Alcaraz came out on top, but it's always fun to watch Alcaraz and Sinner. They always seem to meet each other in these Grand Slam finals. So this
and
one
on the
didn't
wo-
disappoint.
No, they did not. Those two, look, RIP Djokovic, but he had an incredible run. He won 24 majors. Sinner and Alcaraz, you're right. They're now the torchbearers of the sport. On the women's side, the Americans had this player in the final, Anisimova, I think that's her name.
Anisimova, yes.
She is a hard-hitting player. Like, I know
Yeah.
it hurts to lose 2 straight finals, but look, you got that far. That is impressive, and she's on the cusp. I think she's going to be a multiple finals champion because I know this might be a bold statement, but I do think from watching tennis that she's the hardest hitting female player. Like, dude, her ground strokes are rockets. That's just my take. I don't know. And I know Sabalenka, is that her name? I know
Sabalenka.
Sabalenka, thank you. I know she's phenomenal. Clearly, she's a
Yes.
top seed, but I think she might have a legitimate rival in Osaka, who Anisimova beat in the semis. Like, she's almost back too. Tennis is I love the sport. I'm sorry to bore people with that conversation, but good stuff. We had a great weekend of tennis, and now it's basketball and it's football. We're getting the good stuff. All right, we're done, Sophia, right? I went
Think
way
we're
too
good.
long already. Bye-bye, everybody.